everyone. Welcome to Talk is Cheap. I'm your host, Miss Carrie, baby, and thank you for tuning in tonight. I have a special guest for you. She'll be on in a few. First, today we're going to talk about narcissism. Just starting out with what a narcissistic is, and this is a focus on mental health and substance abuse. So it is a mental health awareness in a situation in our community where you find yourself as a woman or a man dating someone that is a narcissist, and how it is a personality disorder. So a little facts about narcissism, so we can just clear up any things that the stereotypes that people say about dating a person like that, the stereotypes about just having a person like that in your life, or meeting one, or feeling like you are stuck in that position. So the word narcissism gets tossed around a lot in our obsessed celebrity driven culture, often to describe someone who seems excessively vain or full of themselves. But in psychological terms, a narcissism doesn't mean self love, at least not of a genuine sort. It's more accurate to say that people with narcissistic personality disorder are in love with an ideal or the generosity in the image of someone. And they're in love with the inflated self image precisely because it allows them to avoid deep feelings of insecurity. So, what that's basically saying is that a person that's a narcissist actually they're not even a selfish person, but they want everything to be basically about them, but they also have deep insecurities about themselves. So, they want the focus to be on them, but it comes from not even self love, it comes from an insecurity, something that they don't like about themselves. Okay, so narcissistic personality disorder involves a pattern of self centered, arrogant thinking, behavior, and a lack of empathy and consideration for other people, and excessive need for admiration. Sorry, admiration. Um, so just thinking about that, we all know arrogant people, but just thinking about someone that you meet that is overly arrogant, where it becomes controlling, where things is always about them, where they don't want that, it comes to a point where they're controlling what you do, who's looking at you, where are you going. They want you to check in with them all the time. And it's becoming like overly excessive. It's drowning out you from your family, from your friends. They're always wanting to know who you're talking to, or are you talking to someone. They butt in the conversation like, oh, put it on speakerphone, or let me tell them hey, or something like that, to try to make sure that's who you're really talking to or listening to your conversations. Also, this person is a person that when they get mad, they go into rage. They It can often get physical with them. They get also it can also come from a traumatic experience that they have. Maybe their parent was a narcissist. Maybe they grew up on the idea that things were for them or about them all the time. And it also just comes off as they believe that they're a special kind of person, or they're being misunderstood. Like no one understands them, but even if you don't understand me, you're going to do what I say type of deal. So just a little bit about being in a relationship with a narcissist. Going more into that. What is it like the point of view that the people have said that this is what it's like to be in love with a narcissist or the lover of one. So it just says that you can't really. Narcissists will claim to love their children, their spouses, and their parents. For them, their love is real, but is it actually? So just thinking about like, oh, I love you, or they maybe even be the person that after you fight, they buy you gifts. They try to swindle you over with nice things, or try to make you forget certain things. They focus on long term compatibility and shared goals. to try to say, well, if you leave me, then we won't have this together. Or they try to just say, oh, they like this thing, so let me try to compare myself to what they like, even if they don't like it, just to make you feel, self fulfillment about yourself, or to attach on to you. So also tonight, that's what we're talking about tonight, hitting on, a few things about narcissists, being in a relationship to one, being in a marriage to one, and then also just overcoming that in your life, and knowing that you matter more than what that person has done to you, and how life goes on. If you can live life before dating one, you can live life after dating one. And just knowing that you are a strong woman, or even a strong man that has dated a narcissistic woman. You never know how relationships go and what people are going through in their relationship. Just giving you a little insight on the things that can go on, how it makes you feel. Maybe you are in one and you don't necessarily know, or you're trying to see how you can get out of one. Um, so just also, and also just talking about self care, knowing that you matter in your own self, knowing that, everyone, I'm always about everyone coming together and knowing that we are united and helping one another, and just really, taking heed to the awareness that is going on here tonight, and the wonderful conversations that I'm ready to have. So a little bit about, my guest tonight is Miss Sheryl Mays. Shout outs to Orlando. She's in Orlando. And Miss Sheryl, just a little bit about her. She does the Dreams, uh, Dream Spare TV. She's a training and life coach. She focuses on E plus R equals O, and she'll explain that wonderful acronym a little bit more. And we also she also does a charity, which is Rise and Shine. Miss Sheryl is very, very, very intellectual, lady, and I really admire her. She's been in the organizational developmental field for over 20 years. So she's really a big help to the mental health professionals. And she's here to share her story. Hi, Miss Sheryl. Welcome to Talk is Cheap.
Hey, Carrie, how are you? I'm so excited
Hi,
to be
I'm great.
part of your podcast this evening.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much for your support. So, how's everything going out there in Florida?
Oh my gosh! Well, now,
Yeah.
that's it's a tricky question. It goes from day to day. We're just
Yes,
trying
ma'am.
to figure out how to monitor, how to actually monitor our well-being mentally, physically, and just trying to stay safe and keeping individuals safe during this time because there's just a lot going on. There is a
Yes,
lot
ma'am.
going on,
It is
and not just in Orlando. There's a lot going on in the country
in the
right
world.
now.
Yes, ma'am.
Hmm.
Yes, ma'am. It is. I know out here in Dallas, one of my childhood friends actually came and visited me, from Los Angeles today. And she's
Hmm.
like, hey, y'all open. We're shut down out there. And I was like, oh, man, really? And she was just like, yeah, it's really crazy out here. And she was like, it's a lot of things that people don't necessarily know or
Hmm.
understand about COVID-19. And I think we all kind of feel the same across the map, that we're kind of lost about some things, or some things are just kind of unsaid within from governments or other state officials and everything. It's just crazy. It really is.
And I think that's the piece right there is that you get so much information. It's like what do you
Hmm.
digest? What is actually valuable information, and then what do you do with the information?
Yes,
And I
ma'am.
think that's a huge piece that the country is in right now. We're just, day by day, just trying to stay alive, stay
Yeah.
safe, and yes, we want the economy to get back, but we also want to make sure that the people that are able to go out are actually being safe so that others can go out.
Yep.
you
Yes,
know,
ma'am.
and it's like you have to
Hmm.
think about the person next to you and not always just about your rights and how you feel about it.
Exactly. Yes, ma'am. I totally agree. So, Miss Cheryl, just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Absolutely. So I am I'm a a corporate trainer as well as a speaker and an author. My company, Rise and Shine, we work a lot with businesses helping on three factors. We work with engagements for employees, we do leadership development, and then we do business processing. And I also do empowerment
Mhm.
speaking and have the opportunity to help individuals move beyond their circumstances and
Yes,
understand that the
ma'am.
power is within you. You
Hmm.
just have to believe that you have the power and then to act on it. And a
Yeah.
lot of times, I think what happens is, and what I know is that fear has a tendency of sitting in and kind of taking residence, where
Hmm.
you literally stop yourself from moving forward or stop yourself from even believing that you can. And
Yes, ma'am.
so everything that I do is based on the mindset. And we'll talk
Hmm.
about that when we start talking about narcissism, and how your mindset is literally what allows you to go, wait a second, something is wrong here, this is
Yes,
not the
ma'am.
way it's supposed to be.
Yep.
And a lot of times we don't get to that point because we're so busy looking and placing blame and complaining that we don't get to the point of realization where you
Hmm.
literally look at your life and go, this is not the way it's supposed to be, something's wrong.
Yep.
And so I have an opportunity to do that for individuals and to help businesses to actually reduce their costs and increase their profit line. And today
Hmm.
I'm excited to talk about this because this is something that's personal. This
Yep.
is something that's personal for me, and it took me 4 years in a marriage before I actually realized what was happening. And then, it's
Yes, ma'am.
interesting because people look at a person on the outside and they go, oh my gosh, that person's got it
Yeah.
all together.
Hmm.
They have no issues
Yeah.
in the world. Life is great, and
Exactly.
you never know what's going on the inside, right? It's like
Hmm.
that. You always see these individuals that are, you assume them to be very successful individuals, and you look at their
Yes.
houses and their cars, but you know what
Hmm.
happens behind closed doors.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, and
And
then you just like we always say in this field, coming from a perspective of mental health professionals, or even just in corporate America, that you can't be judgmental in this field. You can't judge a book by its cover. You get to know a person, you build rapport with them. I'm really big on rapport.
mm-hmm,
And you really relate to them and you understand why they do the things that they do or what they have been through to help them.
exactly. And I think we all come to the table with some level of bias,
Yes,
right?
ma'am. Hmm.
Whether it's a bias that is implicit or a bias
Hmm.
that's unconscious because we think that we know
Yeah.
without even asking the person, tell me what it's like, or without even
Hmm.
asking questions that allows you to, as I say, peel back the onion, right, and get down to the
Yeah.
core of what's actually going on. A lot of times we're surface drivers. We stay on the surface.
Hmm.
We don't want to go too deep because when you go
Yeah.
deep, then things are exposed. And
Hmm. Or
oftentimes
in
I
this
do.
world of offending someone.
Yeah.
We get big on, we don't want to offend them or even the laws that go along with it. You can't get too personal with some people. So, the policy, I call them the policy takers. They take on the policy, the handbook. No, the book said we can't talk about these things at work, or we can't talk about stuff like
Hmm.
this in schools. Um, and then it also goes home, it goes back into the structure at home.
Hmm.
You just teach your child the basics of right from wrong, or don't do this, you don't want to go to jail. But are we really having those deep end topics in those little family talks about what's really going on in your mind or your household, or how are you just feeling today? And we just
Yeah.
judge and say, oh, they're just doing good or they're fine, and they go on by their business, but their kids going through something totally different at school, or we're different, or even us as you know parents or aunts or uncles, or just us as adults going to work. And do I
Hmm.
act the same that I do at home or at work? Or who's judging me there? So it's just those type of things, like, oh, yes, you just had a good day, or the brush off where you think about just yourself and not the others around you.
Yeah. And sometimes people just don't want to have those heavy conversations because they take something away
Exactly.
from your, they take you to have to look internally, and then you
Hmm.
realize that maybe there are some things going on inside you. So if I
Yeah.
eliminate having that conversation, I don't have to deal with my stuff.
Yep. Totally
So
agree.
I think it's what's happening now in the country. I love because we're starting to have conversations of depth,
Yeah.
conversations where you're saying literally, why is that like that? Why didn't I
Hmm.
know that before?
Yeah.
I'm reading a book now, and it's called A Friend of a Friend of a Friend.
Oh
And
wow.
it goes along the lines of you are supposed to be the average of the five people that you hang around.
Yeah.
But when it comes down to it, you're literally part of a friend of your friend's friend because they also
Hmm.
play into your circle of influence.
Yeah.
And so when you stop looking at, just your immediate circle, but look beyond your circle, now you're ready to
Hmm.
broaden your thinking, you're ready to broaden, how you deal with situations, and you actually have a view now that's different from that minuscule view where you're just looking at something that's kind of microscopic. You're now looking at such a
Yes.
broader scope of what's going
Hmm.
on, and it gives you the opportunity to then heal some things inside yourself, to fix some things. And I think
Yeah.
that's where we all have an opportunity to do, is to fix some things within ourselves.
Hmm. And build those healthy relationships. I
Mm-hmm.
believe in surroundings. Who you surround yourself with is your biggest thing. And like you said, just piggybacking off of that book, I I need to read that book. You guys send that to me because it just digging in deeper. That, like I said, people need to become aware that it's always been said in the book of life, birds of a feather.
Mm-hmm.
And people like, no, I don't act like so and so. But when you really like look deep down in, that just doesn't even mean bad things that you get from your friends, but it's
Mm-hmm.
the good qualities of it too, or how you even became friends, or that connection, because you don't connect with everyone the same. You may
Exactly.
have same, you might have same experiences, or we're both at this job for some reason, but how did we really connect, or how did we really start talking? Because I know for me, I don't talk to all my coworkers. I speak to them, regularly and say, hey, how you doing? But it's some that I can text all day, talk to all day, and we can talk about our job or even just everyday life,
Mm-hmm.
and wanting, that desire to hang out with them outside of work or get to know them or say, you know what, you're really my friend.
Yeah, it's like there are some people that you will allow to cross over the threshold, right?
Yeah.
And so when they cross over to the threshold, now they're in your house. And
Yep.
so they're in your house of emotions, they're in your house of things that you believe. So you've literally allowed them a look at something that everybody doesn't get a chance to look at.
Yeah.
And I think it goes along with mental, when you think about mental therapy,
Hmm.
or mental illness, there are some things that are happening that you might not want people to know about, so they don't get to
Exactly.
cross over the threshold. And so now you've put
Hmm.
on this persona of, you know, if I put my face on, I can go to work and I can
Yep.
smile. I can be cordial. Nobody ever knows that, when I go home, I ride around the block twice before going in the house because I don't want to go in the house.
Exactly.
Or I know when I go in the house, I'm either going to go straight to my room or figure out something because I know that there's going to be something that's going to be a blow up. And people
Hmm.
don't know that. And then the next day you put
Yeah.
that face on, you go back to work, and everything is
And
fine.
it's becoming a regular thing. Yeah.
Exactly,
Totally
exactly.
agree.
And literally that's what happened to me in my marriage
Hmm.
when we're talking about narcissism, because people don't understand it. They don't
Yeah.
understand the term, and so you can look at somebody and go, oh, they're just extra, but
Hmm.
narcissism is like extra times 100.
Yeah.
It literally is. And honestly, I didn't even know what the term meant until I came
Hmm.
across it, and I knew something was wrong. um, and we can go and do the backstory leading up to this, but I knew something was not right. And so when I heard the term, and I was like, well, let me see what this is. And I just happened to be going to work one day, and I always listen to
Hmm.
TED Talks, and I always listen to things of motivation. So as I'm
Yes,
in the
ma'am.
car driving, I'm listening to a TED Talk or something motivational. And you know how you go video after video, and then another video pops up. And then
Mhm.
this video popped up and it was about narcissism. And I was probably about 2 blocks from work. And I was like, okay, what is it? So I popped
Yeah.
the video in and I'm like, oh my gosh, you are kidding me. I'm like, that's what it
Wow.
is.
Yeah.
And as I started listening to, the description of it, I'm like, I've been living this for the last 4 years and didn't
Mhm.
realize what it was because I kept going, you know, he's just mean, just like
Mhm.
evil, just like a nasty mean,
Yeah.
not physical, just sometimes you can hurt a person more with words than you can
Mhm.
if it were to be
The
physical.
verbal
It's
abuse.
physical, you can patch it up, you can put something on it, but
Mhm.
when it's that verbal, it hits you in your core, and you can't
Yes.
patch that up. And so,
Mhm.
some of the things are just so vile. It was just, it was every morning. It was I was going to
Wow.
work and I would get this nasty, horrible text just to ruin my day.
Mhm. Wow.
And so this is what would happen, and you get to a point where you're like, is it me?
Mhm.
What's going on? And you start looking at yourself going, well, maybe I'm doing something wrong. Let me try harder.
Mm.
And so, you go, okay, well, maybe, I need to do more of this. Let me clean more. Let me cook something more. Let me, do this. Let me, everything you
Yeah.
can think of that you might have done at a level of 8. Now you want to take that to a level of
Mhm.
10 because you're trying to figure out a person can't be this mean. So it's got to be
Wow. Yeah.
something that I'm doing.
Mhm.
And then when I realized what it was, and you start looking back, right? Because hindsight is 2020, and you
Yeah.
start looking back, and I'm like, well, wait a second. There's that separation of trying to separate me from my family. Everything that you talked about initially, right? Trying to separate
Yes,
you
ma'am.
from your family, trying to prove that they're better than you, even though they have nothing that they have done to show that.
Mhm.
Trying to negate your accomplishments, trying to negate your accomplishments. I'm a
Wow.
very accomplished individual, but
Yeah.
he kept trying to negate that, like, yeah, you're not all of that. And it's like, well, wait a second, what have
Mhm.
you done to say that my life isn't where it's supposed to be, and I'm not doing what I'm
Yeah.
supposed to be doing? When we look at your life, and you've never done anything, but yet you want the
Mhm.
accolades, because that's how
Mhm.
narcissists think,
Yeah.
right? They want to think that they're better than everyone. And and it's the never wanting me to talk to his family. I never had
Wow.
conversations with his family, not his mother, not his
Wow.
sister. Every time I spoke to them was because he had them on the phone. So I couldn't have a
Mm.
conversation with them by myself. And I realized it was because he was afraid of what they might tell me about him.
Mhm. About
So
him.
there's
Yeah.
always that fear in the back of their mind that somebody's going to say something and you're going to leave
Mhm.
them, because
Yep.
they're living off of you, and they're
Mhm.
living off of the things that you have accomplished, and they're just piggybacking on it. And
Wow.
he would just do like these really nasty things and just say things. And there's this thing called gaslighting, where
Mhm.
that is a narcissistic trait, is gaslighting, where they continuously
Okay.
try to do things and make you think that, no, you did that, you said that. I'm like,
Mhm.
no, I didn't. Yeah, you did. You just don't
Wow.
remember.
Wow.
And so you start looking at yourself like, I must be losing my mind, because that's what they want you to think, like you're going crazy.
Yeah.
And so I would sit there and go, I know I didn't say this. I know I didn't do this, but maybe I
Mhm.
did. Because, it's like,
Mhm.
well, I, you're just like, I don't understand what's going on here.
Yeah.
And so it was a lot of competition. That's their other piece,
Mhm.
is competing with you.
Yep.
Just, things like, I know more people than you know. I'm like, okay, that's fine.
Mhm.
My clothes cost more than
Wow.
your clothes.
Wow.
Really?
Yeah,
My
like, does
car
that
costs
even matter?
exactly.
Yeah.
It's like, my car costs more than your car. I'm like, but my car's paid for, so it doesn't matter. You're still
Wow.
paying a car note.
Mhm.
So there are things like that where you literally have to go every day. I was like, this is not what I want to do every day. This is
Yeah.
not what I want to do. And then when it came time for my family, I'm very close to my family.
Mhm.
And a part of narcissism is that they don't want you to have anyone else.
Yeah.
They want to be the sole person in your life, because then they can
Mhm.
control you and they can continue this gaslighting and make you think you're losing your mind. And so
Wow.
my family would come down, and that would be a huge, huge issue. I don't know why they're here. Why are they here? And I'm like, because it's my
Mm.
family. They came down to the housewarming when we got a house that I
Okay.
picked out, right? So they came to the
Okay.
housewarming. They came when we got married. We literally went to the courthouse. And now, when you think
Wow.
back again, 2020, didn't want anybody else around. So it was like, hey, let's go to the courthouse. I'm like, okay, yeah, fine with me.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. And
Mhm.
so, it was a lot of things where you look and you go, it was that part of the separation where they want to separate
Mhm.
you from your friends. He hated all of my friends. Um,
Wow.
you just your friends are your friends are this and your friends are that, and I'm like, you
Mhm.
don't even have any friends. What are you talking
Wow.
about?
Yeah.
I like my friends became your friends because you don't have any
Mhm.
friends. You
And
know,
then now you're saying you don't like them for whatever reason.
yeah, right.
Wow.
Just for just things. It was just
Mhm.
so crazy. It was like every day you go through this and you're defending yourself and you're defending your friends, and it's just like it was such a battle every single day, and just dealing with the fact that they can't accept criticism. So if
Mm.
you were to another trait for them is that they can't hold employment, because there's always the other people. It's not because they can't do the
Mhm.
job, it's because the other people don't like them, or the
Don't
other
let them.
people
Yeah.
didn't train them properly. And so it was like
Mhm.
every 6 months he would lose his job, every 6 months.
Wow.
And so every 6 months, I would have to go in and go, okay, I can't spend what I want to spend, because I know in a couple of months, I'm going to have to pick up everything, because
Mhm.
he's going to be unemployed. And so that
Wow.
happened for 4 years. Every 6 months, it was always something about the job, and always
Mhm.
something about them not, liking him. He couldn't get along with the female manager. It was always something, and
Mhm.
they don't. The guys that are narcissists, something to them,
Mhm.
or the manager
Wow.
refuses to train him properly. But people before you have done this job, so I don't understand. So I would
Wow.
go, well, hey, I'm a trainer, right? And I'm
Mhm.
thinking, okay, I'm a trainer. I've been the VP of sales, so I've been a vice president. I have my own company. Let me
Okay.
help you. I don't need your help. You
Yeah.
can't help me. You can't tell me what to do. And I'm like, I you know, I have techniques that I share with people to help them accomplish their goals.
Yeah.
No, I don't need your help. Oh,
Wow.
okay. You know, so
Yeah. Like you don't need my
going
help.
into
And also
yeah,
coming from your
exactly.
wife,
And my
your
thought
biggest
is
supporter.
this. Thank you. And that's the thing is like I'm like, okay, well, if we're in this together, and if I'm less in something, I would like for you as my spouse to help me get better at it. Because if you're better at it,
Mhm.
then that's why we're together. I bring you up where you're not where you need to be, you bring me up. But that's not how they think,
Yeah.
because they don't need any help. And how dare you tell them that they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing? Because it's always a personal
Mhm.
attack. So here we go now, fast forward to year 4. Um,
Mhm.
it had really gotten volatile. It had just really gotten bad. And
Yeah.
so we were just arguing all the time, all the time. And now my mom is here. And so we're arguing in front of
Yeah.
her, and she's in the room, and he's just really nasty and
Wow.
just cursing and swearing, and I can't even show you the texts that I got from him, um, just because they're just vile and they're just nasty. And so
Mhm.
we were arguing, and my daughter calls and she says, okay, I'm going to
Mhm.
call the police, because we were trying to get him to leave the house and he wouldn't leave. And so I had went and asked the police for help. And I said, listen, this is my situation. somebody's going to get hurt
Okay.
because it has really gotten to that point. Someone is going to get hurt unless we do something. And they said to me, there's
Mm.
nothing we can do because nothing's happened. So I'm going,
Wow.
okay. So we tried to change the locks. They said, you can't do that. Okay. So we put the locks
Mm.
back.
Mm.
Then my daughter calls the police and hoping that the police will tell him just leave. Well, I'm outside, so the police come to the house. And I'm outside and I'm talking to the police officer. So apparently he looked out the window and saw me talking to a police
Mm.
officer, and he immediately went to, like, I don't know, 200, level 200. And so he called the police, and the police went in, the other officer went into the house. He told the officer that I
Mm.
pushed him 2 days ago.
Wow.
So the police officer comes out the house and he says, well, did you
Mm.
push him? And I said, no, we've never had anything physical. It's just verbal. He says, well, he said you pushed him. You're under arrest for domestic violence. I'm like, what?
Wow.
I'm like, wait a second. I have never done anything in my life. I'm the one that volunteers. I'm the one that's worked for all of these nonprofit organizations. At the time, I was literally
Mm-hmm.
a volunteer for the police department. And so they arrest
No
me and
way.
I go to jail. You talk about
Mm.
traumatic. I've never
Yeah.
been in handcuffs, never been in the back of a police car, none of that. I go to jail. I go to jail for 2 days. This was over the weekend. I go to jail for two
Mm.
days. I come out. I have to have an ankle bracelet on. I can't go back
Wow.
to the house that I picked. I can't go within 500 feet of my house. I can't go in the house. So now I'm
Mm-mm.
staying with a girlfriend of mine, with my mother, mind you, because my mother is still in town. So
Yep.
her and my dog. So we're living with now a girlfriend of mine. And the only thing I could think of is, how did this bracelet on my ankle? And I'm like, what the heck happened here? So I
Wow.
had to have the ankle bracelet on. And then he wanted to press charges. So I'm like, well, this is
Mm-hmm.
crazy. I'm like, I don't need a lawyer. Nothing happened. As things started to progress, I was like, wait a second. This is serious. I need to get a lawyer. So I ended up getting a lawyer. And we get the lawyer. He wants to press charges because now he's totally upset and infuriated. And he continues to say, well, if you talk to
Mm-hmm.
me, I won't press charges. And I'm like, no, we're done. I'm not talking to you. And my
Yeah.
lawyer kept saying
Yeah.
he can talk to you,
Mm-hmm.
but you can't talk to him. And I'm like, that doesn't even make sense. So I tried to get help. So I called a Harbor House trying to get help. Like, tell
Okay.
me what's going on here. And they say, I can't talk to you because you're the abuser. And I'm like, what?
Oh wow.
Are you serious? So then I try to call, help you. You need to get a defense attorney. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
still in this vortex of disbelief. Like, how did this morph into this?
Yeah.
So now I'm staying
Wow.
over to a friend of mine's house, and
Mm-hmm.
my lawyer goes, well, you can't talk to him. But meanwhile, he's calling me, he's emailing me, he's texting me, and the
Mm-hmm.
lawyer is like, you can't respond or else you go back to jail. And I said, he's doing this intentionally to try to set me up.
Yeah.
So I don't respond. Next thing I know, I'm over to my girlfriend's house, and the door isn't locked, but the screen door is on, and he comes in the
Yeah.
house. We didn't know that the door was unlocked. Didn't know he would come over.
Wow.
So he comes in the house. So I'm videoing him like, you can't be here. So he leaves. I call my lawyer and I say, listen, I got a video of him walking up in the house where my safe haven is. The lawyer says,
Mm-hmm.
you didn't talk to him, did you? And I'm like, he came into the house. He goes, I don't care. You can't talk to him. He says, you can go
No
back to
way.
jail. And I'm like, this system is crazy. This
Crazy.
system is
Yeah.
not meant for individuals that are looking for help. And I
Mm-hmm.
was just like, this is totally unbelievable as I continue to live in this
Yeah.
vortex of disbelief. Um, and every time I'm looking, I'm like, I got this ankle bracelet on and I can't go to my house. All of my furniture is there. He had no furniture there because he moved up from out of state. So everything
Mm.
in the house was mine. And the only thing I can think of is
Yeah.
he's going to sell everything, which is literally what he
Mm-hmm.
started doing. We started to sell stuff.
Wow.
And so my daughter went over and she got as much as she could. And then I had stuff that was, they took to storage. And so I had
Mm-hmm.
all of my stuff was in like a 10 by 12 storage. And I'm sitting in
Mm.
the storage unit and I'm going, how did my life get here where my stuff
Yeah.
is in a 10 by 12 storage unit? And I own
Mm-hmm.
property. I got, I'm like, I got a job,
Wow.
and I'm like, this is
Mm-hmm.
crazy. And so here's what he does. He calls my job. At the time, I was working for the government, and he calls my job,
Mm.
and he tells them that I was arrested for domestic violence,
No way.
and I got fired. So
Wow.
I got fired from my job, and now he's laughing about this because he's texting, going, "Yeah, I told them what happened, and I told them that you were arrested for domestic violence." And I'm like, unbelievable. So I got called into the
Yeah.
office, and they're like, what happened? And I here's the thing about that is that I had up until that point, I had been telling my boss, look, stuff is getting really funky at
Mm-hmm.
home. You might get a phone call, and he's like, don't worry about it, Cheryl, we got you, don't worry about it. But when it happened,
Yeah.
he was like, yeah, we got to let you go. And I'm like, really? I'm the
Mm-mm.
one that
Like
told
they
you
threw
that
you
was
under the
happening.
bus. Wow.
Exactly, exactly. So then it got to be the attacks on social media. And then it was, he put
Mm.
my arrest record on social media. He sent it out to my business associates. He emailed them because he got into my
It
email
was something
account.
else.
Oh my God. He sent my mentor, my business mentor, all of my associates to literally where I had to now email them and say, look, this is what's going on.
Wow.
And here's the thing. When you are operating with integrity and individuals know you and they look at this
Yeah.
and they go, that's not her. That's not, that
Mm-hmm.
didn't happen like that. So his plan failed in that regard, but it literally upset my life
Yeah.
to whereas,
Yeah.
I literally had to find a new place of residence. I had to find,
Wow.
that's when I literally decided,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to start my own business. But here's what happened,
Yeah.
because when things like this happen to you, what you do is you curl up into a ball, right? And you go, my
Mm-hmm.
life is done. What do I do? And so I was in the bed for about 4 months. I was just,
Wow.
and I was like, you know what? I got in my woe is me bed. I pulled up my what the hell covers,
Mm-hmm.
and that's where I stayed. Until
Wow.
one day I saw, and it's amazing because when you're going through something, everybody's looking for one day, right? That one day when something
Mm-hmm.
so dramatic shifts in your life that it kind of wakes you up
Yes.
and it brings you back.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw this quote, and it was by Layla Delilah. And it said, when she remembered who she was, the game changed. And I read that a couple of times and I
Yeah.
kept going, wait a second. You're stronger than this. You are more than this. You are a
Mm-hmm.
child of God. Your faith has told you you are more than this. And so I immediately got up out of the bed and I looked in the mirror and I said,
Yes.
I dare you to do better. I dare you to do better for yourself and for your life.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, you know what? I dare you to rise and shine. And that's how my company was named.
Yeah.
So my company was
Wow.
named
Great.
from that experience. And
Mm-hmm.
I have since then continuously embarked on people. When you're going through something, you find
Yeah.
strength in your struggles. The struggles are not meant just for you to struggle. The struggles are meant for you to grow. The struggles are
Yeah.
meant for you to get closer with God, with your faith, with the universe, with whoever your divine being is defined by you. That's
Yes,
what your
ma'am.
struggle is for.
Yeah. To
So when
overcome.
you come through the struggle, you have the ability to now rewrite your narrative.
Yes.
And that's that one day. And so that's what I tell people. When you're going through something, you're looking for that one day.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to be able to be open enough to see it when the opportunities come. And that's when we talked about, and you talked about earlier about E plus R equals O.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And really, what it stands for is your event plus your response equals your outcome. You can't always
Yes.
change your
I love
events
that
because that's
acronym.
just, the
Yes,
events
ma'am.
are just what they are. But if
Yes,
you want to
ma'am.
change the outcome, you have control over how you respond to that
Yep.
event. So when you look at how you respond, you can say, wait a second, I'm not going to let that hold me from accomplishing my goals. I'm not going to let that stop me from going to school in my professional career. I'm not going to let
Mm-hmm.
that stop me from being the individual that I am destined to be.
Yes, ma'am.
And when you get to that decision and you make that decision, then you can rise and shine. And you can get up, you can get out of that bed,
Mm-hmm.
and you can literally, uh, I was still talking, and you can literally say, I'm better than this, and I
Yep.
won't let you do that to me. And so when you talk
Mm-hmm.
about mental abuse, um, you know, I always say that the emotional aspect of mental abuse
Yep.
is far greater than the physical aspect. Because
Mm-hmm.
the
Yes,
emotional one, you
ma'am.
got to mentally get over that. The physical ones, you can
Yes,
kind of,
ma'am.
you could patch yourself up, you could go back out. But that emotional,
Yep.
that's deep. That is really, really deep. So,
Yes,
if
ma'am.
I were to give a message through all of this to someone, the
Mm-hmm.
message would be look for that one day. Look for that one day. And don't count yourself out. Don't count yourself out. Because
Yes,
sometimes you're
ma'am.
pushed into your destiny. And that's the great thing about life is that it's not over. You are
Yep.
pushed into your destiny, and now silencing the chatter monsters, move beyond your fear, where you literally understand how to silence all of that negativity that's around you. And you can move
Mm-hmm.
beyond your circumstances. You can come out on the other end much bigger and better than you ever have.
Yes.
And I have a, I guess if you were to say, kind of like a symbol is there's a
Mm-hmm.
flower called a lotus flower, and a lotus flower, it pushes itself up from the mud, and it's the only way
Yeah.
it grows is it grows in the mud, and it pushes itself up from the mud into this beautiful, beautiful flower. And so when we have the ability to
Yes,
push
ma'am.
ourselves up from that muck, from the mud, from the despair, from the devastation,
Mm-hmm.
and realize that there's a flower, and you can actually become that flower and fulfill your life and do whatever it is that you want to do. But you have to be able to say,
Mm-hmm.
yes, I can.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Great.
So
Thank
that's
you
my
so
really
much, Miss
long
Cheryl.
story.
No, no, no. It was
But
great. It's great,
today,
great,
when
great.
people talk about narcissism, they don't really understand
Mm-hmm.
the depths of what it is. And you have to look at the patterns. You just have to find patterns. Look at the patterns.
Mm-hmm. And they won't even believe, like, just
I
thinking
guess that's
about
my
when me and
story.
you
I was
pre.
going to write a book on that, but because it was still
Mm-hmm.
happening, and I was going to say, it's a story that I'm going to write, but because every now and then I still get a text message, just like 2 months ago, he found my name on
Yes, ma'am.
YouTube and he wrote something about Cheryl's been arrested for domestic violence. And I'm like, you know what?
Wow.
It's been 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
We've been divorced now for 2 years and he still pops up.
Wow.
So, yes, I still have a troll. That
That's
pops up
crazy.
periodically.
But
Yeah.
just me thinking about, like, when we first met and how we, me and you connected, through our shows and the things that we do in our everyday lives as well. And you first shared it with me. I was like, what? No way. Because like like we first started off, you can't judge a book by its cover. You never know
Mm-hmm.
what a person is going through, or you can't downplay someone else's experience or their story, because you never know how they're feeling or who they, share that with, and let them help them. Because certain things that have helped me. And it even made me think, am I dating a narcissist? What he be doing, you know? But
Everybody's
you
not.
know,
Don't
just
start looking
also
at people
thinking that I
strange.
want to, no, no,
Just
no.
be aware.
But you know,
Just be
just
aware.
always thinking that, you know, like you can laugh about it now because that is
Yeah.
your truth, that is your story. But just also thinking about, like I say, those healthy relationships around you, and the biggest supporter of your life besides your family, your children, is your spouse or your significant other, and you want them to be the greater good of you and have the best interest that they can, you know, for you and for each other, because you wouldn't dare have done him like that. You know, you would have at least left or, you know, moved on, and you need to go on by because you have your own, like you said, you're self-made.
Yeah.
You were independent within, you know, being codependent as well, because you wanted to be married, you wanted a husband and a family, and he like turned all that down. You know. So
Yeah. Well,
so just looking
it's
at my,
it's that.
mhm.
And I was just gonna say,
Oh no,
it's just
continue,
that thing of,
Cheryl, I'm sorry. Mhm.
you try to do like you said, right? You want to be married, and you look at your vows and you go, okay. People
Yes,
say the
ma'am.
first 7 years are the hardest, but
Yeah.
then you're like, yeah, no, I didn't sign up for this. I did not
Yeah.
sign up for this. So, deuces, I'm out.
Right.
But
And also,
and
Miss
here's the
Cheryl,
other piece that.
I was saying you hit on like your books
No, I
and
was just
writing
gonna.
a book about your story.
Mhm.
So what are some books that you know? I want you to talk about some of the books that you do have out now or planning to release.
So I have right now there is one, and it's called
Okay.
"Silencing the Chatter Monsters: Move Beyond Your Fear." In December of
Yes, ma'am.
2020, there's going to be another one called "Daily Steps for Success."
Okay.
That's going to be in 2020, and I'm
Great.
holding on to this narcissist story because I just know that he's going to do something else and it's
Hmm.
going to add to my story.
Yeah.
But what I do love is that I get to speak to authors. I get to talk to
Yes, ma'am.
authors on a regular basis. I host a show called The Authors Lounge on Dreamspire
Okay.
TV. And authors
Yes,
have these
ma'am.
incredible stories about their experiences. And they're from all walks of life. And the stories are from, spirituality to self help to children's books to why a person wants to share their story and their experiences, and they come from such areas that are just amazing, and they share these stories because they want people to either experience something, they want them to feel something, they want them to laugh, they want them to know that they're not in it alone. And so I love being
Hmm.
able to talk to authors from all around the world, just sharing their stories and getting a better understanding of people's lives. Because you never
Yes,
know what a
ma'am.
person's going through, and then when they put it in a book, you're like, oh my
Yep.
gosh, really? That happened.
Yes. Yes,
So
ma'am.
it's therapeutic. When we go on podcasts and we share our stories like this, it's therapeutic.
Yes,
It's to
ma'am.
help others. It's to help yourself because you gotta let it go. Um, I was always told by my pastor that your gifts are not for you, they're for someone else.
Hmm.
So if you have the ability to
Yep.
share your story and it helps a person come out of the darkness, then you've done your
Hmm.
job and you've done
Yep.
what you are supposed to be
Yes,
and what
ma'am.
you're on this earth to do. And I
Totally
thank
agree.
you for doing a podcast like this because you are
Oh,
sharing
thank you.
such great topics that are, allowing a person to literally look at their own lives and go, you know what? I need to
Yes,
tell
ma'am.
somebody about this because I'm not the only one. And a lot of times people think they're the only ones. But when you
Yeah.
see a show like what you're doing, when individuals are literally saying, I've gone through, drug addiction, or I've gone through, walking the
Hmm.
streets, or I didn't have a place to live and I was on the streets. And you hear people tell these
Yes, ma'am.
stories, and it's no longer something that you see on TV, but you now know that this is real. That people are
Yeah.
going through these types of things, and if you have the ability to help one or two people by sharing your story, then share your story.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Thank you
So
so
thank
much,
you.
Miss Cheryl. Any last words, Miss Cheryl?
Just to, for your audience, definitely keep tuning in because these topics are so
Thank
real
you.
and they're going to help you. And if you have a story to share, this is a great platform for you to share because, again, you're not alone. I can guarantee you, if it happened to you, someone else has had a similar experience. Might not have been the exact same experience, but it's similar. And they need to know that they're not
Yes, ma'am.
alone. So thank you, Carrie.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much, Miss Cheryl. And you guys check out her books. And she's a great author, intellectual woman, lady. I really admire her a lot, and we connected. And you'll be seeing more of us in the future. Also, catch Miss Cheryl on her show. Like she said, she interviews other authors on Dreamspire TV. So you guys check that out. And thank you, Miss Cheryl, once again for supporting and coming on Talk is Cheap. Is amazing. Thank you so much. And we also have a comment from Miss Brittany. Shout outs to Brittany. Brittany's from Mississippi. She said, thank you for sharing. And
You're
thank
welcome,
you, Miss
Brittany.
Cheryl. All
Thank
right.
you. You have an
Goodbye.
amazing evening.
All right. Thank you. Bye bye. All right, guys. So just wrapping up here. That was Miss Sheryl Mays. If you're just now tuning in, start over from the beginning. Just talking about the topic of narcissism and overcoming that, dating one, being married to one, um, and just understanding Miss Cheryl's story. And it may be something that you guys are going through out there. Like I said, I don't decipher between men or a woman, or who's going through it the most, but just coming together and knowing that you're not alone. So wrapping up here, as I always do, I'm your host, Miss Carrie Baby, and this is Talk is Cheap. None cuts, none censors. For a mind, for a body. Hashtag we care for you. And thank you for tuning in tonight. Bye.